Hey guys, so I think it's very important that today we talk about a little movie called Spider-Man No Way Home, because this, in case you don't know, was the highest grossing film of last year, and it got praised up the ass. It was a hugely popular movie. People to this day still love the hell out of it, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not against that, you know. It's a movie I saw just like everybody else last year, and I was expecting great things because I think this set things up quite well in the last movie, Far From Home. And I really enjoyed, those movies, even though they were pretty much a huge departure from the comics. I felt like Homecoming and Far From Home were good movies. So I was looking forward to this third one, and people loved the hell out of it. I was very lukewarm on that movie. I didn't think it was bad, but I really didn't think it was good. I mean, it was kind of, it's the definition of a 3-star movie, in my opinion. But people went nuts for it because the movie showed them a lot of things that they were expecting. A lot of cameos, etc. There's going to be spoilers throughout all of this. Okay, this is not really a full-on review. This is going to be me talking about some notes that I took during the movie. And as you can see, I took a few notes, all right? When I was rewatching this movie, I took a few notes because it turns out that even though the first time I watched the movie, I was kind of okay with the storyline of it, this second time round, I had some questions, okay? And this is not what I experienced in any of the other 2 Spider-Man movies. Like when I watched Far From Home, I thought there were some weaknesses to the story kind of in the second half of the film, but they were quite minor. On the whole, I felt like the overarching kind of storyline really held together quite well. This time, watching No Way Home a second time, I had questions. I had a lot of questions, and we'll get to that. So this is not really like a full-on review. I already have a review of it on my website right here, so go check that out if you're interested. This is going to be just me kind of trying to chat with you guys about this. We can debate this in the comments if you want. This is not, I don't want to go around, trashing the movie. I just want to discuss a few things with you that, to me, kind of struck me watching this movie a second time, where I'm going to be honest with you, second time watching the movie, I liked it even less, okay? Yeah, so let's get to it. So the first thing that was kind of weird for me is that there is a scene in the movie really early on where, and this is, some of these are nitpicks, some of these are very kind of small things. There's like a scene where they show something on the news, okay, and they explain what's going on. And then it cuts to Happy, played by Jon Favreau, reacting to this, but like being shocked and just wondering what's going on. And it's like, well, I thought they just literally explained what was going on. So that was just kind of a little thing where it's just like, was he not watching what we were watching right now? So that was just kind of weird. Then we have the first thing that really kind of threw me, where, okay, so Peter Parker is looking for the lady from MIT. They get rejected from MIT because of this whole controversy, Spider-Man controversy, where it's revealed that Peter Parker is Spider-Man and they're his friends, etc. So Peter Parker tries to find the MIT lady to try and talk to her, reason with her, get them back on board. So he goes to look for her, and he knows that the MIT lady is somewhere on her way to like the airport or something. So he goes to like the bridge, where the whole Dr. Octopus fight takes place later, and he just finds her. In like 5 seconds, it finds her. Like, he loses her. He's like, I don't know how I can find her. I don't have access to the whole kind of Tony Stark equipment thing. She's somewhere on the bridge, I guess. I don't know how to find her. And he finds her in 5 seconds. I'm sorry. that's a little much. Okay, it's this Spider-Man is super strong. Okay, he's very smart. He's got spider sense. I don't think he can find a needle in the haystack. That seems like he just sees her like instantly. Like, I guess he knows what she looks like, but can you imagine how hard it would be to find one person in one car on a bridge, packed bridge, in New York in 5 seconds. Can you imagine that? That my question is how? How? Did I miss something in that scene? It's possible, but that just seemed very quick to me. Now, obviously, you know what happens next. Dr. Octopus attacks, then the Green Goblin shows up, and then it cuts to Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange, portals Spider-Man back to the Sanctum Sanctorum, whatever it's called, and then they have a chat. Okay? So then I thought this was weird the first time watching the movie, and I still think it's really weird. So Spider-Man knows that the Green Goblin is on that bridge looking for him, okay? Throwing all kinds of pumpkin bombs around. And he knows he has to find him. Like Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange, tells him, okay, here's a weird, like a magic gauntlet, okay? You just zap him with that and, you know, bring him back to this lair, this basement lair, and you'll have him prisoner there because Doc Ock is already prisoner there. So my question is, why can't Doctor Strange just open the portal back to the bridge that they were just on, and then Spider-Man can just shoot Green Goblin, bring him back? Because what happens is really odd, in my opinion. So he gives him the magic gauntlet, and then Peter Parker goes to get MJ and Ned to help him find the Green Goblin. Does that strike anyone else as really odd? Like, especially because we've just seen Spider-Man take down Dr. Octopus relatively, like pretty easily, okay? Because his technology is far more advanced, okay? He's got the Tony Stark technology in this universe, so he takes down Dr. Octopus really easily. So doesn't it go from that he would take down Green Goblin very easily? He does later on in the movie. So why can't Doctor Strange just send him back to the bridge where the Green Goblin's not gone at that point? They've just had like a very quick conversation in the basement. I feel like he could have just gone straight back, especially because the Green Goblin is looking for him. So I feel like Spider-Man could have just gone back to that bridge with the magic gauntlet, freaking, thrown some webs around, and just been like, "Hey, Gobby! And then he would have showed up, ha! And then zapped him. I don't know why the hell did Peter Parker need MJ and Ned there to help out? Because they're really not that useful. They're meant to be smart. They're kind of like sort of on the same level as Peter Parker intelligence-wise. Not really exactly, but you know, they're up there. But what do they actually do except waste time? Because ultimately, Green Goblin finds Peter Parker by luck through Aunt May. So Ned and MJ were completely useless, and it just feels like a waste of time. It just feels like the movie's wasting your time at that point. I didn't get this whole logic of going from like battle on the bridge, introduce Green Goblin, zapped to Doctor Strange, and then we just meander around for a while until Aunt May finds Green Goblin. Why couldn't we? What? It just seemed odd. Then we have Doc Ock. There's this whole scene where like the humor in this movie is one of the things that really turned me off the first time. The humor in this movie is one of the things that really turned me off the first time watching the film, where it's just very heavy-handed and very kind of cringy jokes. Every character is kind of jokey, which I really hated. Like, I don't think Dr. Octopus would be cracking jokes, or the Lizard, or, not like freaking Electro. Everybody should not be cracking jokes all the time. It just distracts from what the characters actually are. There's a scene where Ned opens like a fridge, and he's just like not shocked that there's a bunch of critters in there. There's just a bunch of live critters, and then he just closes the fridge and just goes about his day. I'm just kind of like, all these characters have these like, oh my god. They make these faces for the whole movie, but then when there's actually something surprising, they're just like, oh yeah, there's critters in the fridge, alright. And okay, you could be like, yeah, that's the point, because it's like, at this point they've seen so much shit that nothing surprises them. But that's not true! Everything surprises them after that and before that. It's just this didn't surprise them at all. It's like, and it wasn't even funny. It wasn't done for comedic effect. It's just kind of like, here's a bunch of critters in the fridge. All right, next scene. I guess we just needed to see a bunch of critters. I don't know. So I think that there's characterizations in this movie are really inconsistent. The way we left things between Sandman and Spider-Man are kind of odd. Because is Sandman getting teleported from the moment that we leave him in Spider-Man 3, or did a bunch of shit happen afterwards? Because he seems to be friends with Spider-Man initially, but we didn't really see that in Spider-Man 3. It feels like the way they leave things in Spider-Man 3 is kind of like Spider-Man understands that, you know, this guy has issues, but he kind of lets him go. But I don't think they're friends at the end. But at the beginning of this movie, they seem to be pals. Like, the Sandman's like, hey, what's going on? I'll help you out against Electro for some reason. Oh, man, the effects on Sandman are so bad in this movie. Oh, God. Oh, they're bad in Spider-Man 3, but they're also bad here. I'm still confused about Electro. I don't know what's going on there. Why? What is happening with Electro in this movie? I mean, he changes look, all right? So Max is just like, hey, I got my body back. That's the first thing he says. It's, hey, I got my body back. And it's just like, what are you talking about? Like, okay, so you're not blue anymore, but you never looked like this. At no point in your life did you look like this. So the way that he puts it is, the energy here is different. My question is, what the fuck does that mean? The electricity is different? How is the electricity different? The energy? What? What are you talking? The air? It's the same. As far as I know, it's the same fucking air they're breathing. Why do you look different? Why do you have so much hair? Why are your teeth fixed? I guess his teeth were kind of fixed when he was blue, so I guess they can explain it that way. Why is your personality completely different? I don't know how we got to this Electro. I just don't understand that character. The Electro that we meet when he's just Max in Amazing Spider-Man 2, he's this nerdy, shy, loser guy, right? And he's got like kind of like bad teeth. He's got a bad haircut. He's a nerd, right? And then the whole point of the film is that when he gets the power, he becomes this kind of larger-than-life, scary guy, you know? Okay, his teeth are fixed, but he's blue. And he is kind of like a very angry character. But here, he's not really angry. He's just kind of like a chill dude. And I'm just trying to think, like, when did he become a chill dude? What happened there? And why does he look like that? Different energy. Don't know what that means. I don't get it. The lizard is even like, how did this happen? Even the characters in the movie are like, why do you look like that? The lizard, who looks like a fucking talking crocodile, just like, why do you look like that? Like, even he doesn't get it. And I still haven't got a good answer for that. Can someone in the comments explain to me why the hell Electro looks like that now? Like, my thing is, if the energy is different in this universe, whatever that means, they should all have looked different. They should all have had revamped looks, and then we could have had some consistency there. Then you could have it would have been a win-win. You get new costumes for these characters, which fans love, kind of updated costumes, right? You get a freaking kind of an explanation that makes sense for every character instead of just like one. And it kind of helps the story kind of just gel together a little bit better. It would have been a cool explanation for a new Green Goblin costume, right? A new Green Goblin costume. Instead of starting him off in that costume and then he breaks it and then he's just in a hoodie. You know what I mean? Like, you could have had just a cool Green Goblin costume. Maybe you can make Willem Dafoe, give him a little bit of makeup so he looks more goblin-y. You could have done something cool there, and it didn't. It's a shame. Also, if they all got teleported, okay, when they died, how come they all wear different things than they did when they died. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think the Green Goblin, when he died, even had his mask on. I think the mask was fucked up at that point, right? He died when the glider, if I remember correctly, just, he kills himself, essentially. Like, it kills him, and he doesn't have the mask on, and he's all bleeding and stuff. And then in the movie, this movie, he's not only is he not bleeding, he's fine. And he's got the goblin costume, he's got the whole thing on. And I'm just kind of like, that makes no sense to me. You should have, like, and also, I mean, there's the obvious elephant in the room where they all look like way older than it did before. Not so much Jamie Foxx, but like, definitely Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe. Although it's not that shocking, but still, it's, obviously they can't make them look younger, but it just doesn't. It's not convincing. And I feel like they could have done something to make it a little bit more convincing. Yeah, this whole kind of like, why the villains look different now thing didn't even, like, and it doesn't make sense why the Sandman is just like made of sand the whole time in the movie. Like, towards the end, he kind of becomes back to normal. But Thomas Hayden Church was not in that movie. I hope you guys realize that they just kind of like CGI'd him from the whole movie, just kind of use his voice. I feel like they barely used any new footage of him at all. But yeah, so I just didn't, because at the end of Spider-Man 3, I feel like he's still in human form, but he can transform into sand whenever he wants still. This just doesn't seem to, it just looks like the movie's trying to hide the fact they didn't really hire Thomas Hayden Church for this project. And same thing with the Lizard. Although the Lizard has more trouble looking, back to normal. There's a few other nitpicks. I really felt like J. Jonah Jameson was kind of wasted in this movie. They made such a big point of, introducing him at the end of Far From Home, and it was really cool the way they did it. In this movie, he's kind of there, but he's not really involved in the story at all. He's just kind of like at the beginning bitching and moaning about Peter Parker being Spider-Man, and that's fine. I just wanted him to be a bit more involved. But the nitpick that I have is, like, they show him at the beginning, and I thought that was quite funny, where it's like he's green screened and he's got this show on television or whatever, or on the internet. But when it cuts to the set that he's on, it's a shitty set. Like, it's like his living room or something. I thought that was a very clever and funny, kind of poking fun at kind of like political pundits on the internet, where they're like, they've got this whole setup and it looks very professional, but when you pull back, it's literally they're just in their house and this is just their basement or something. That was a funny little thing. But then later on in the movie, he's literally on television. I think he's got like a whole like professional set. So I don't know if the movie was trying to tell us that because of this whole Spider-Man thing, he became so popular that he got his own show. In which case, if that's what they were going for, why not, have J. Jonah Jameson do something in this fucking movie, or be a bigger part of it at least. Yeah, he's just kind of like a starting point for the whole Peter Parker Spider-Man thing. I'm also unsure about this. Dr. Octopus seems to really know a lot about Willem Dafoe. He seems to know a lot about Norman Osborn, and the way they talk to each other is like they're pals. And I don't remember them being pals ever. It's possible they knew each other before he went nuts, but it also really felt like they were hanging out in very different worlds, okay? Octavius was, kind of this nerdy, friendly scientist guy, and Norman Osborn was this kind of piece of shit entrepreneur guy. So it didn't really seem like they were hanging out in the same kind of crowds, and freaking Norman Osborn died like long before Octavius even became Dr. Octopus. So it just seemed an odd dynamic that they were just kind of like, they had this instant, friendship going on, or like recognition of like what each of them had done. Like Octavius seemed to know a lot about Norman Osborn, but it seems odd. It seemed odd to me because we never saw that in the original trilogy. Yeah, and like I said, like the whole teleporting, why would the villains like teleport from different like times? Like I get why they would teleport from different universes you know, at the same time and end up in this universe, but why at different timelines? Okay, they want to do the different time and space thing is merged and kind of broken because of the Doctor Strange spell thing. But why so specific? Why those guys at that point? As it stands, I'm not sold on any of this. I know there's, the time and space thing is broken. They don't really go into that in this movie, though. I feel like we could have fleshed out the science of all of this stuff a little bit more. And I'm not really sold on the whole thing about would it really kill those guys to go back? If you send all these villains back at the beginning, why would it kill them? Why wouldn't Peter Parker's thing, instead of being no, they have to stay, instead of that, why couldn't he just be is there a way that we can send them back at a different time? Why can't we send them back at a different time? That would be my question. Why can't Dr. Octopus be sent back either before the events of Spider-Man 2 or after? Why does it have to be as he's dying? You know what I mean? That seems odd to me. And what about the guys that wouldn't die? And honestly, the whole thing about you can just cure these guys at the drop of a hat. It's just no, I think there would be some deep, lasting psychological damage. Okay, I don't think it would be that easy to turn the Lizard into just a chill dude, or turn Dr. Octopus back to how he was before, or Norman Osborn, especially Norman Osborn. I think after so much time, especially Norman Osborn, after so much time being kind of talking to himself in mirrors and shit, I think there would be some lasting psychological damage. Same thing for all the others. I don't think it's as easy as Tom Holland pulling the freaking thorn from the paw of all these bad guys and everything's fixed. I don't think taking all the power away from Max just fixes him. I think that should have been explored more as well. I don't think you can just fix someone that easily, especially someone as those villains here. And that's kind of the Disney thing that I don't really like, where every horrible villain in Marvel has to become a good guy somehow at some point. I don't see the need for that. And I think this is all part of that, unfortunately. I'm also a bit confused about the Doctor Strange versus Peter Parker conflict when they don't agree about this. Why can Doctor Strange just put Spider-Man in one of those basement rooms with the villains? Why can't he just go and then Spider-Man's in there and then that's it? Why do they have to fight on upside down trains and shit? It's a cool sequence. It's probably the best sequence of the film. The fight between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. But why does any of this need to happen? I don't know. And the whole fixing things with math. The whole kind of beating Doctor Strange with math thing is okay, dude. I don't know. I didn't even buy that one. And, there's a lot of weird dynamics in this movie where, when Norman Osborn is just hanging out with Aunt May and he's hanging out with Peter Parker and he's not, restrained in any way. Dr. Octopus is restrained, but Norman Osborn is just walking around. Did we just forget that Norman Osborn was the Goblin? And okay, yeah, he does turn later on, but couldn't it have been avoided by just restraining him the whole time? Why does he need to be there? Do we really need Norman Osborn? I don't think so. I don't think we needed Norman Osborn's help here. Clearly this guy is not right. Okay, fine, he's eating donuts with Aunt May, but you gotta restrain that guy. He's the freaking Green Goblin. Okay, can we be real here? There's a part where I thought it was kind of funny, but it's actually quite tragic, is when Aunt May gets freaking pulverized by a glider at full speed. Okay? So when you see it happen in the movie, it's really fucked up. This glider at full speed pulverizes Aunt May. And then she gets up it's just a flesh wound. Okay? And Peter's first thing that he says is, May, what happened? It's didn't you see her get freaking pwned by that glider. And like he's acting like, why don't you take her to hospital right away? Right away. And he's like, I'll call an ambulance for you or something. Bro, you're Spider-Man. Why? I don't understand. You see that Aunt May is hurt. Badly hurt. Why don't you just grab her right there? You're super strong. Remember, he's super strong. Grab her right there. Go to hospital right away. Right away. She might have been okay. Okay, like her spine was not broken. She was still walking around. This must have been just a case of internal bleeding. And you know what? She might have died in hospital. But that would have made more sense to me. If he took her to hospital and then you have the scene where she dies, instead of him just being like, hey, Aunt May, what's up? And she's like, with great power comes great responsibility. And then she dies, and it just made no sense. That whole scene made no sense. And it's just like, there was no emotional weight to that sequence because it was so weird. It was so freaking weird. Or at least close some of those wounds with your spider thing. What's the point of having sticky spider things if you can't close those wounds? I mean, at least the outer wounds. I would have liked to see that. I mean, obviously you can't close the inner wounds. I'm just saying. Now we're getting to the whole Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, sequence. The big reveal of the movie that everybody already knew was gonna happen. So it was very exciting when it did happen because it was so unexpected. Why are all the Peter Parkers who are summoned Spider-Man? It would have actually been funny if one of the Peter Parker that was summoned was just some guy named Peter Parker who was not Spider-Man. That would have actually been funny. You didn't have a lot of good comedy in this movie, but that would have actually been like just one guy called Peter Parker and they have to send him back because I'm sorry, dude. And you could have had someone really funny like play that role. You know, you could have had, I don't know, freaking Jim Carrey show up as Peter Parker. I don't know. You could have had somebody. And then it would have been funny actually because it would have like poked fun at this whole entire ridiculous sequence. Why is every classic Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, why they're all introduced in Ned's house? Was that weird to anyone else? Why are we spending all this time, like, it feels like half of the movie at one point is taking place in Ned's house. The whole big reveal of this movie, which it could have been done in so many cool ways. You could have revealed these characters in really awesome ways. Both of them. You could have done it in two different ways that is unexpected and really cool. But no, we have to go to Ned's grandma's house and just fucking sit there for 8 minutes while we go whoop. One of them comes out. We have a funny conversation. All right. And then whoop. Another one comes out and we have another funny conversation. Yeah, because that's not freaking boring as hell. I'm just shocked that the big reveal of this movie was done in such a shit way. Where we're just in this house. There was a million cool ways they could have done this. And I can't believe we're just in Ned's house. I mean, I can't believe Ned is so important in this movie. I can't believe Ned is in this movie. That we have enough time in No Way Home that we need to have freaking Ned be a Doctor Strange character in this. Forget enough with Ned already. Enough. We've seen him enough. Wouldn't MJ know? MJ, who spends all her time with Peter Parker, wouldn't MJ know that he goes to a certain place to kind of think when he's had a bad time? I thought the whole point of Peter Parker getting Ned and MJ in on this whole thing was that they were good at finding people. That was the whole point of them finding the green freaking goblin. And she can't even find Peter Parker when he goes missing. She needs to have freaking Tobey Maguire show up from another universe and be like, where does he like to go? And MJ is just like, the rooftop. I don't feel like I know this MJ at all. Like, I don't know who she is. I don't know what she likes, what she does, how she feels about stuff. She is not good in these movies. I'm and I'm done with Ned. I've had enough of Ned. Ned should not have more screen time than freaking Spider-Man villains or Spider-Man. Okay, no. Ned should not have as much screen time as MJ. MJ is the main love interest. She's, a very important character we've seen develop somewhat since the first movie. No. Why is the fact that Peter is hearing the Uncle Ben quote from Aunt May, why is that valuable at all, since he's already Spider-Man at that point? And he's already learned this, I feel like, twice now. If freaking Peter Parker has not learned that great power comes with great responsibility by this point, what the fuck is going on in that guy's brain, right? I thought that's what the whole last movie was about. He's given this great power and responsibility, the Tony Stark magic glasses and satellites and shit. He squanders it, and then at the end is like, well, I've learned my mistake, and now I know that with a lot of power comes great responsibility. I'm making stuff Tony Stark style, okay? And now it's a good setup for the next movie where he's gonna be a little bit more mature, a bit smarter. No, he hasn't learned shit. He still needs to learn great power Bro. Look, in the first movie, Peter Parker making loads of dumb mistakes is fine. Okay, he's a kid. He's dumb. Fine. Second movie, okay, maybe he got, he's emotionally distraught after losing Tony Stark. Maybe, Jake Gyllenhaal is a very charming guy. He believed that guy. Fine. It's dumb, but fine. This time, Aunt May going like, yeah, they might die. That dying's bad. And then he's like, yeah, dying is bad. Let's just, have the villains just be here. And, let's keep the universe broken. It's just like, bro, I don't know. I don't know why this whole quote. They wanted to do the Star Trek Into Darkness thing where, oh, Uncle Ben said this once, so now she's saying it. And it's a multiverse thing. But it's just like, oh, man, it's so cringy. Because he's not going to learn anything from that. Because he hasn't learned it so far. And her saying that has no value whatsoever. We're assuming, watching these movies early on, that he'd learned this beforehand. That Uncle Ben's a character that existed before. And I feel like they were hinting strongly at that early on in Homecoming as well. That Uncle Ben was a thing. And he died. And he taught him this. And then we pick up the story with Tony Stark going to meet Peter Parker for the first time in that movie, and yada, yada, yada. But no, now we've changed it so that he never actually learned that lesson, it turns out. And now Aunt May has to die 3 movies in for him to learn something that he very clearly learned, like in movie 1. That's a rough one for me. That is a rough one for me, okay? Why has Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man been thinking about a cure for the Green Goblin all this time when the Green Goblin died a long time ago? And his son. So at that point, they've been dead for a while. And as far as I know, there hasn't been another Green Goblin. There hasn't been a Hobgoblin. There's been shit. And if there has been, why don't we know about this? Why couldn't there have been a line where oh yes, there was an enhanced version of this goblin power thing that turned someone into the Hobgoblin, and I had to fight that guy, and that got me thinking about a cure, and I managed to cure him. You're not gonna do the Hobgoblin anyway, so you might as well have made this make a lot more sense. I'm just saying. And I'm gonna end this by saying I don't understand the back cracking scene. I know it's a big meme, and beyond gay fan fiction where all the Spider-Man are having hot, sweaty sex with each other, I don't know what the point of that scene was. Why do we need Andrew Garfield to crack Tobey Maguire's back, dick to ass, in the middle of a movie? And that's a scene. That's a question mark for me. Like I said, if the whole point of that sequence was to prompt gay fan fiction, Spider-Man fan fiction, it's like, cool, that's fine, but why? What does it have to do? Why is it in this movie? Like, why? How does this move anything forward? I don't. They're bonding, I guess, but I feel like there's other scenes where they're bonding, and this movie's long enough. Do we need to promote non-existent fan fiction in this movie? I thought movies were like telling stories and shit. I didn't think. What is the back-cracking scene? Explain that to me. I want to see some comments on that. Why? And if this movie really wants to put the image of Spider-Man having hot, sweaty sex in our minds, I mean, okay, it's in there now. I can't deny it's in there now. But also, I feel like if you had just removed that scene and then just use the time, the 3 minutes that you do the back-cracking scene, if you just use that time to explain shit to do with the movie, then this movie would have made some kind of sense. But as it stands, this is, as far as I'm concerned, it's just a couple of dudes who are the same dude fucking each other on a bridge. Or a scaffolding. The Statue of America Liberty. Captain America Liberty. I don't know. Why is this happening? It's sexy, I guess, in its own kind of like, imagine if you could fuck yourself kind of way. But I just want to know why Electro looks like that. We could have just taken that scene out of there and then just spend 1 minute. That's all I want. Take 1 minute out of the back-cracking scene. Explain to me why the fuck Electro looks like that and sounds like that. And yeah. All right. So if you guys have any answers to any of my questions, and I'm sure you will have, please put them in the comments, and I will do my best to let you know if I think it's a good response or a bad response, or have a discussion with you, a polite discussion. Okay. Now, I don't think this movie is terrible. Okay. I don't think it's the worst movie. I think it's the least good Spider-Man Tom Holland era movie. I think for me, it's still Homecoming at the top, Far From Home after that, kind of flawed, but still, I really like a lot of aspects of it, and then this movie. So I don't think this is a good movie. I don't think it's a terrible movie. It's still kind of like very average to me. We're kind of like, after watching it a second time, I might take it down from 3 out of 5 to 2.5 stars out of 5. Okay. Very, very, very average. Or like 2.7 out of 5. How about that? Yeah, I get why a lot of people like it. Like I said, if you want to see my full review of it, it's out there. I mention all the good stuff about this movie in that review. But for me, there's just a lot of questions. So if you guys want to help me with that, go ahead in the comments. I'm sure I got a lot of shit wrong, but I was paying more attention in this second viewing, and I still had, things I needed to work out. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you're not too mad about my take on No Way Home, but I also don't care too much if you are, because that's just I'm just asking questions. Okay, so thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. I'm about to get my back cracked by my fucking naked self from like another universe, and I will not be wearing any pants for that. See how weird it? Why is that in that review? Why did I just put that in this video here? The real way home was the freaking boners we had along the way.